So I've got to take care of all the animals, and then our dog just she started having a panic attack just by being in the house. Like her anxiety keeps getting worse. So it's just she's like running up and down the stairs and running from room to room. I'm not sure why or what she's doing.
Dude, how is your camera so crystal clear? And I just hooked up an HD version for myself, and it's like it doesn't even compare.
Because your lighting sucks.
It's my
You
lighting?
can have a $5,000 camera, and if your lighting is bullshit, then it doesn't matter. Your camera will look like shit.
How's that for
And I'm using an
lighting?
iPhone, which is probably better than a DSLR camera.
You're using an iPhone to...
Yeah, but I haven't. Yeah, I have a good lighting setup. You just have front lighting on yourself. You need lighting behind you, ambient light in the room.
Oh, wow, really? There's a whole thing.
You've never investigated?
I mean, I've got this like light thing that I have right next to here, which I probably should put over here or somewhere else.
Yeah. The first thing you should do is learn about lighting.
Okay, I'm gonna turn this off until I learn.
I mean, it's better with it on because if it's too low, then it's just going to be weird and grainy. But
Okay.
yeah, it looks like you're in a candlelight parlor or something.
Uh,
Do you have
all right,
overhead lighting there?
I do, but it's like a weird orangey tint.
Yeah, well, you could fix that later. Turn it on.
You want to see?
You look weird orange right now anyway. Much better.
Much better. Oh, great.
Yeah, it looks, yeah. Like, whether or not you're orange is a different question, but
Okay. Well,
yeah,
welcome to the show. Ready to get
let's go
started?
with the dark basement, mom's dark basement look.
Today, we are taking a different approach. I'm going to be the host for today, and I've got a list of topics. I want to not share the topics before we talk about them, so Reed doesn't have time to think about them. So when he hears them, his act of thinking about them is authentic to the experience of thinking about them.
Well, I thought about this beforehand, Adam.
Sure, go ahead. What did you
It's
think?
not,
This is what I'm trying to avoid. I've been trying to avoid you thinking about things beforehand.
well, I was thinking about why I don't really talk about things I haven't thought about. It's because in the moment I have a hard time thinking. So like it's like when I'm alone and quiet, I can process through things, but like in front of another person or people or on the spot or anything, I have a really hard time thinking. Um, so that's why like I do it alone. Let me get some water.
So this is my theory. We could start with my theory of you if you'd like to start. I've got a theory of you. I've got a theory of Reed. Listen, a lot of people have about, like a definition or like they have like a conception of their higher power. I've got a conception of Reed. I'm not saying he's my higher power, but I definitely have my own conception of what a Reed is. Would you like me to explore my theory of you?
Yes.
Okay, I'm also learning how to ask permission before I give people feedback. Not that this is actually feedback. This is just my experience of Reed, or not even my experience, what I see. And
Yeah.
I feel like you have a tough time thinking in the moment because you haven't fully embraced the character of yourself, like vulnerably and like being seen publicly or being out there in the world, Reed for Reed. It's hard for you to, because when we're thinking, we're trying to come up with something that makes sense or sounds okay, and there's a lot there's control in thinking. But if you're going to sit and think in real time, you're losing control.
Maybe. I think it's an anxiety and ADHD thing. Like it's like a neurological or physiological thing where like in the moment and around other people, my brain doesn't work the same.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's everyone's experience.
Um,
I would say that's part of it. That's kind of what I'm pointing to is you don't you haven't had the same practice I have had of like verbal vomiting live on social media for anyone to see or pick apart.
well, what about years and years of sharing in AA meetings?
The lights are off. There's an idea of a message or there's a context for it.
The lights are off.
Sometimes.
Not in the meetings I'm going to.
Good morning, Bird. Good morning, Joe. Yeah.
No, yeah, the Freedom Club was great because the lights were off and there were couches, but I also like be tripping on DXM in those meetings. But like, in the meetings I've shared in since being actually sober, the lights are painfully on. And my heart pounds out of my chest and my hands get numb, and it's actually a really unpleasant experience for me to share in meetings.
Yeah, I go in and out of that. It's mostly 90% of the time not comfortable for me to share in meetings, and I think the reason you can share in meetings, and the reason that it makes it a little bit easier to share in meetings, is there's a context for it, and we're given a story of why to share. There's a reason for it. We've got no reason to sit here and talk about talking. We've created our own reasons.
Yeah, it makes it difficult when there's not uh a it's different if I feel I don't I generally try not to speak if I feel like I'm trying to speak on purpose or force a conversation or something like that. Like in a meeting, the worst thing possible is when I feel like the mind wants to share or like the ego wants to share and wants to I don't I try not to engage with that. But if the spirit wants to share, then I'll let it rip.
You can tell the difference between the spirit and the ego.
Yeah, can you?
Uh, mm, no.
It's the number one skill people should develop in recovery and spirituality and life.
Yeah, it's hard. I can't tell the difference because it seems that I'm only able to become aware of the ego when I feel it or sense it. I'm not aware of it unless I'm become aware of it.
Well, you can't like think back in memory and answer that question. It's, you know, unless you recognize that you're doing it. But like I know that I sense in the moment those things and try not to share if ego wants to speak, and if the spirit is moved to speak, then not like I'm channeling a higher power, although that happens sometimes. Um, but the motivation has to come from somewhere other than the ego, which um, what I really mean is the thought process that's identified with um, obtaining some really like greed or selfish desire or pride, any motivations in that area. Um, I can I can kind of taste those things, and I try not to indulge that. But sometimes it pushes forward, and
Yeah, it's hard for me to say. I see what you're saying. I almost feel like anything that is shared from thought is shared from ego. And I think to define ego, I would define the idea that there's a separate me. There's a character here that has its own wants and desires, like you just described. I think it's thought based. And then also, deeper than that, what you just described, the motivations for an action are subconscious representatives of this ego or this needing things or wanting things that are out like to facilitate some sort of a change.
yeah, I would just I wouldn't classify all thought as this kind of selfish, superficial ego motivation that I'm talking about. So that's the difference in what I think our approach is. I don't think thought is automatically supposed to be discarded and not followed. Just because it's thought doesn't, it's the type of thought. It's where the thought's coming from. I mean, I understand that all thoughts are ultimately coming from a self, but which no, I don't think that's necessarily true either. Um, I
What do
think
you
that's too.
what do you mean by spirit? That was Bert Bird was asking about that. Also, good morning, Enes. I'm going to try to pronounce your name. Anestromic et praxis. Good morning. What do we mean when we say spirit?
That's Latin. What was the first word?
The first one was enestrumic et praxis. Enestrumic et praxis.
Not sure about the first part.
What's the second part? Et
I don't
praxis.
know. I recognize the word, but et means and. Um, what do I mean by spirit? So like when we get into conversations about God and spirit, I don't know if uh, that can be helpfully defined. I think it's something that someone feels out on their own, um, and that it's something you know for yourself. Um, but I could be mistaken, and spirit seems to be a thought or a motivation, um, or a feeling that comes from somewhere that's not obviously tied to a personal want, desire, or goal. Um, it often might seem contrary to what I feel like I consciously want. Um, it doesn't offer, it's distinct from thought um, and ego because it doesn't offer justification or reason. it's not a force produced by a logical process. It seems to embody wisdom that comes from outside the mental process, not reached through reason or logic, and might not make sense at the time, but makes perfect sense sometimes. You don't always get to see why, but um, so it's something outside the normal zone, or like the realm of like the character and the thinking mind. Um, and generally, I associate it with better outcomes than I could have planned or foreseen. Generally, it leads me to do things that I wouldn't normally do because I can't foresee. Yet it turns out better than what my idea was. So some kind of wisdom outside the mind that has an interest in what I'm doing and guiding me to something better, and invariably also helping other people in the process.
Let me see what you think about this. Also, good morning, Pete. It's good to see you, Peter.
Peter C.
Our Peter, yeah, our very own.
Nice.
Okay, so here's the question. Bird, it seems like it's vocabulary for the religious. I don't know it. And then et praxis, anastrumic, spirit is another name for consciousness. So this spirit thing has a wisdom question mark?
I don't think spirit and consciousness are the same.
I'm going to share my thoughts. Consciousness is what is. It's being, and then spirit is whatever it is that materializes from and as being.
I don't know the source. But I think a lot of Eastern philosophy and talk about consciousness and non-duality and stuff tends to collapse spirit into this kind of philosophy. Up it, Dougie. Up, Luna. Um, as when there's no one doing nothing, or everything's consciousness or whatever, it kind of displaces or um, collapses all thought about anything. Got a bunch of animals in my lap.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Bird said, let's start at the beginning. What are the qualities of the spirit thing? I've got a list of topics that one of my goals for today was to kind of get more into our experience, the things that we've seen experientially, kind of move a little further away from thinking deeply about these things and really examining aspects that we know through experience. The spirit thing is I agree with what the statement that you made at the beginning, Reed, was pretty spot on, where it's like I don't think we are going to be able to define it, but somebody can define it for themselves. What spirit
I
means.
gave a pretty good description of my experience with it and how I feel like it shows up and distinguishes itself from regular thought or feeling.
Yeah, and I'm nebulous with all that. I see everything as spirit. I see base level consciousness as just what is. It's being. We are all experiencing being and consciousness, and everything that arises from it and as it is spirit. I don't see much of a difference.
So yeah, when I'm referring to spirit, I'm more referring to a distinctly leading or guiding force, not the I mean, whether or not that issues, I guess everything issues from the ground of being, but like the relationships there, like who knows? We don't have access to sensory data beyond this, so.
Could I say the unseen, unknowable, unqualified intuition or sense?
Well, it's not unknowable if I can feel and follow it.
So the first question I think I want to start with from this topic, I don't know how experiential it actually is, but it's a good. I think we can move into this one and then bounce around. But the question I had is how do you switch from living and acting and moving in the world and being a person and interacting with your job and people at the gas station and paying bills? How do you switch from how do you switch to a mystical or experientially living in union with the unknown? How do you switch from just practically being to experiencing yourself as whatever word you want to use to define it? What is that switch? Is there a switch?
How do you go practically be in the first place?
How do you go practically be?
Yeah, how do you switch to practical being? So my question was, how do you practically be?
Well, let's start with defining mystical or what a mystical experience would look like. Have you had one?
I don't use the words mystical. What do you mean by mystical?
Unknowable, magical. It's almost like when you're a kid and you're outside, and like, I guess an example for me is I used to think when I let go of a balloon, it would go up and the Care Bears would get it. And I used to think if I lost my skateboard in the sewer, the Ninja Turtles would have it. Everything was like magical and fantastical. And there's been moments in my life waking up, looking at the dream of the world appear in front of my eyes and seeing the trees move and seeing everything as consciousness. It feels mystical. It feels like, how is this even a thing? And why do we get to experience this? And what the heck is it?
So, when I did a wilderness therapy program in Utah, and we hiked around the desert for 2.5 months, and we'd find popped balloons on the ground.
From all
So the balloons,
those.
they come down in random places. So just because the source is unknowable doesn't mean it's some magic mystical thing, right?
Right.
It just means we don't know. Our sensory or our sensory experience is limited.
I also guess I would say a mystical experience. I think it has a lot to do with losing the sense of separation. So it's a sense or a knowing that there's no real. Practically, there's a difference between me and you, objectively speaking, in the material world, but subjectively speaking, when I recognize who and what I really am, it's the exact same as you. So going in and out of both of those states of perspective.
So, I don't know if mystical is the right word. I'm really not sure what mystical means, but like I've had experiences or states or these kind of experiences where the, separation between self and other doesn't collapse. So like that's not actually a hallmark of um my experiences of this realm. So that's
You
that's not a definite characteristic.
so you've not experienced a an absence of yourself?
I have in unremarkable ways, not really associated with any kind of like big um bursting, you know, peak experience or something, but more in un like I said, unremarkable circumstances.
Like flow states, working on a problem, in conversation, things like that?
Again, I don't know about a flow state, like not a I don't know, just sitting around doing normal stuff and
Do you ever experience your body moving itself and your thoughts thinking themselves and your voice speaking itself?
um if I look at it a certain way, that's what's happening right now.
Okay. That's what I would define as mystical. It's just
Yeah,
weird.
I would just define that as perspective.
So, what about, and this is the other part of that I wanted to talk about.
We didn't talk about anything actually mystical.
What do you mean? That's it. There's nothing to say about it more than what we said, I would say. We don't know enough about it.
So, I've had experiences or encounters with the divine, and I would say that's a numinous experience, but I would say that's closer to what? I think of as mystical. And I don't. It's a it's a state where there's an altered consciousness, but I don't really identify the state as resulting from a particular state of my own psyche, but rather the presence of something else, um, and the influence that has. Um, yeah, no, I really, yeah. Um, Seeing everything as God, including the one praying, the prayer itself, and what's receiving the prayer, and then laughing hysterically because of the absurdity of praying to God when the words themselves and the speaker are already God. Um, yeah, I don't associate, like it's like we're reducing a mystical experience to like just like an acid trip or something. Like I can go take drugs and alter my state of consciousness and see things differently. But when a different power or like an entity or a presence kind of fills the room with a power or light that is otherworldly, um, and there's some kind of relationship or communication with that. To me, that's mystical, and I
Well,
think
okay.
that has great value because that changes people. I mean, that changed. Just having that experience, my trajectory is altered forever. But I can trip 100 times and not necessarily um, be changed. I'll be changed, but not necessarily in a way that the trajectory is like now on a course that's 100% better than when I was before.
Right, but
That's a
it sounds like
associate.
the difference is what you're describing is an experience that comes and goes and passes, but what you just described is an actualization or a living relationship with yourself or your higher self, both.
Me?
That's what it seems like you just described.
No, I described a relationship with a power distinct from me, not myself.
Okay, a power distinct from you. Yes, a relationship with something that's not you and is unseen.
I mean, unseen visually, it's not like an object that shows up, but it's more of a presence that's known without the normal senses.
Good morning, Yoshi Yoshi. He's got a question. What is above consciousness? What is below consciousness? What is to the side of consciousness? What is inside of what is I think you're talking about what's outside of consciousness.
Well, I mean, if someone says what's above consciousness, we would refer to the source of consciousness. I do we Why do we assume that consciousness is some kind of all-pervading, ubiquitous field or ground? Why do we
Yeah.
make that assumption?
I agree with you. I think it's a poor assumption because it can only be known consciousness can only be known through the experience of consciousness and it's happening in this organism. You know what I mean? Like it's contained within this organism. There's nothing to say that exists outside of itself.
Yeah, we have a range of, like, Francis Lucille. He's like, is consciousness limited? Well, it seems I don't fucking know, but like my sensory range is limited, and so that would seem to define the outer bounds of consciousness, at least in my experience. Um, I guess there are people who say they've seen the limitless nature of consciousness, but you'd have to have some kind of unlimited sense in order to plumb the reaches of consciousness. But like, I don't think it's some like what? Yeah, what do we mean? Like, if you'd never heard the word consciousness or the concept, would it have ever occurred to you? Is my question.
And I also recognize a leap has to be made. I mean, yeah, it's just the consciousness, awareness, being, all seemingly processes the brain, or at least receive the brain receives these things. It's
Is this like the fish in the water thing? Someone tells the fish about water. He starts talking about looking for water, like someone told us about consciousness or awareness or whatever, and then it's like we're in it, but suddenly we're like defining it and looking for it, or feel like we're not looking for it because we found it, which is like maybe equally
well, that's
absurd.
well. I mean, the fun thing about Lucille and Spira and all these guys, the fun thing about it is once you find it, you can stop looking because it's here. It's there's nothing miraculous or there's nothing out of the ordinary about it. So it's
So
very humbling.
what is it that's found?
Nothing. It's just nothing. It's just whatever it is that's being, and then it's like that's it. Like the whole Dzogchen meditation, there's all this secrecy and all this mystery around what Dzogchen is, and they don't share what Dzogchen is with people because they know if they share it with somebody, they might just push it aside and be like, "Oh, well, that's nothing. I've been, I've experienced being my whole life. Who cares? It's not that interesting." So that's why they
It
don't
sounds
share
like
it.
it sounds just like Zen. So maybe they're just trying to like be like we're better than Zen or something. But they're
Yeah, I mean
different.
it's
That sounds
great.
like Zen.
It's great marketing. Listen, this thing's amazing. We've got a thing. I'm not going to tell you about it, but we're all very serious about it. It's
But
super important. No one can know.
so that is helpful to the degree that like if you yeah, the more you talk about this kind of shit, the more it seems like there's something, or it's like the more it gets conceptualized. And I think that's dangerous, spiritually, to kind of form these concepts of which are inherently misunderstood as a concept. So then it kind of warps your. That's just another thing for the ego to think about and do and deal with. Um, but again, like what is it that's found? So like we say there's nothing to find, and then Francis Lucille's thing is like once you find it, you stop looking or whatever. But like, really, is it just peace we find when we stop looking for stuff? Like, literally nothing is found because there's not anything special, and it's just whatever it takes for you to drop looking for something else.
I mean, that's why this isn't. Well, that's why what we're talking about these things because I think that's impossible. I think peace is impossible in the sense that, like, if it's something that's already here, I can't create it because the thing that's trying to create it is the thing that's disturbing the peace that's already inherent in existence. So all of this to me, all of the stuff, all the like Dr. Damien's comments, the hundreds of comments on Dr. Damien's YouTube of people talking about this stuff, to me it's all just this is the process of like I've got this character, this person, this thing that is working this stuff out. It's like it needs to be worked out to be dropped essentially. It's not it's procedural. It's not it's a verb, it's not a noun.
So what is being dropped?
Nothing. It's just tiring itself out. It's just whatever it is that thinks it's doing things is just tiring itself out or being told that or hitting walls enough time. I hit my head against the wall enough time to finally say, "You know what? Maybe I should just stare at the wall rather than bang my head against the wall."
Right, but to be banging your head against the wall in the search, you have to have been put on the search in the first place. So why are we looking for something? Because a healthy organism wouldn't be looking for anything other than food, shelter, water, and sex, companionship, community, maybe a connection with the divine, spiritual, there'd be, why would a healthy organism seek anything beyond those things?
But that's the difference. There's no such thing as a healthy. There's a difference between a healthy organism and human being. Because like the animal or the thing that operates on instinct doesn't think about it that way. We're thinking about things this way, which creates this level of separation from the instinctual or flow like state of existence that can occur.
So it's our ability to think and conceptualize that allows us to create an idea about a need that doesn't exist or maybe is for something fictitious. But
Well,
again, I would raise the question, why do we have a need for something that can't be fulfilled in the natural world.
Well, that's where I'm like on board with Jim Newman is like it's a dream. We think we have a need, like this whatever this is that thinks it's separate from everything else, that thinks it's an individual operating in the world, thinks it has needs, but it actually doesn't.
Well, it has needs,
Yeah,
real needs.
but not the ones that you're describing, like conceptual, needs for the future, you know.
So it's the problem that through thought, we're able to conceptualize needs like food and shelter. And then once that's done, we can develop a need for other concepts. So it's like once you can think about something, you have the ability to think about things that aren't real. The concept itself not being real. Like you don't need the concept of food, you need food, but people, it's like why people chase money instead of, you know,
Well, we've got this active imagination, extremely active imagination, and it will pull us into these dreams, and we'll feel if I'm fantasizing about somebody, or I'm imagining myself making a play on the field. I'm feeling all the emotional states that come along with that experience, and it's all imaginative in my own head. It's a dream. And I start to believe that I want those things or need those things to have those types of feelings. It's a high, it's a rush, and it's all self-created through our imagination.
so there's something real. So okay. Yeah, in order for the game to take place, the football game or whatever, we need to be able to temporarily believe in the goals of the game and the rules and all that. We have to temporarily believe that it matters if you get the ball into a square or whatever. Um, and that you
Well,
have to temporarily, well, yeah. And so therefore, when we temporarily believe those things are true, our natural drives are, that, things like fear and adrenaline and drive and all that can be applied and to put into action as long as we temporarily believe in the reality of the goal. We put it, it gets put on the level of survival to some degree. And that's the game, is believing that our survival depends to some degree on the outcome of the game. Otherwise, everyone would walk around and maybe just walk off the field to get a drink of water during the middle of a play.
I don't think it's yeah, yes, I hear what you're saying, but I think it's less about survival, and it's more about like everything is a game, and it's like allowing yourself to play with life. Like when I'm in my when I'm in the locker room and it's 4 hours before the game, and I'm imagining getting past the offensive tackle to sack the quarterback. I'm imagining that. The desire for that isn't because there's rules of football or there's rules of how I need to be in high school or how I need to be as a team member. The desire is coming from wanting to get through a challenge or a problem. And it's
But you believe it's a challenge and a problem in the first place,
well,
but it's not.
it is
Temporary, you're
it is.
temporarily believing in the reality of this challenge or problem.
This is where we move from non-dual frameworks to practical application of how all this stuff can help create a preferable state of existence or experience for an individual. Because the weights are 45 pounds. They're always 45 pounds. You can go to the weight room and try to lift up 45 pounds. It's not going to turn into 10 pounds. But your muscles, the organism of your being, will become stronger and tempered through that challenge. But the question is like, is there a why behind it? That's the question that we all have to answer for ourselves. It's like, why would I want to lift heavy stuff up and put it down all the time? What's the point? I used to think all the time, like once I'm done playing football, like, and I don't have to work out, why would I ever do it? Turns out I do it way more now than I ever did while I was playing. Well, I wouldn't say that. They worked
But
us out, but
you've come up with a why and you've identified it, and that's why you continue doing it.
there used to be a why, now there's not. I think whys are great agents for action and motivation, but eventually you don't need them.
Well, if once you've created, you need a why to start a new action, but then once you've created the habit, you don't need the why anymore.
Yeah, because well, yeah, well, yeah, yeah,
So it starts with a why. You have to identify a reason. And the reason is because you feel better when you're working out
yeah,
overall.
and
Yeah.
the why will still occur if you're aware of it. Yeah, we all
If you
have
drop the
whys.
habit, if you drop the habit, you'll remember fairly quickly the why.
Can I catch up on the messages with you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Yoshi was. I'm going to go through a lot. You just pick out what you want to talk about, okay? Yoshi says, "Does consciousness know how it came into existence?" And then Bird asks, "Why is conceptualizing dangerous?" I wouldn't say. I would say it's not dangerous, and I don't know how consciousness came into existence.
Conceptualizing is not no, okay. The danger is mistaking the concepts for reality because you can turn anything into a concept. Like people start mistaking money for something that actually brings them happiness or is like good in itself. And you can see that what happens when people do that. It's fucking dangerous. But to realize that money is just kind of a wrapper or a stand-in for the ability to purchase things you need, um, it's maybe it's not such a. I mean, money drives people to do crazy things. So
If
that's the
it
danger of a concept.
is all knowledge fatalistic, that's from Yoshi, and then Strumic at Praxis. Can I join you next Saturday? I'm open to it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, you can at Praxis. Dr. Michael Damian has entered the chat.
Really?
We can only say his name one more time before he tells us we're wrong, by the
Hey,
way.
welcome.
Is creation inside God? From the perspective of God, is creation perfect? I think these are rhetorical questions because I don't know if they're answerable. Can we be conscious of God or the absolute? Um, there's a lot here. It's a game, it's an activity. If you participate in the game activity, you will want to do things that completes the challenge. And that's Bird referring to life.
Yeah,
In the
I think it's
game,
like, yeah,
oh, what?
go ahead.
In the game, the why is less important once you're familiar with what needs to be done to achieve the objective. That's assuming you've agreed to play the game.
Yeah.
And then,
So
go ahead.
Alan Watts was big on the game metaphor for life, but I mean, I think it can be a healthy way to view things. Once you realize it's just kind of a game and a challenge, and it's like the things we're doing on a daily basis, it's like we're pretty far removed from the survival aspect or the like that core reality of what we're doing on a daily basis. Um, and so when you realize it's kind of like this, the whole social and society thing is kind of a game. There's these rules we have to play by, and how you're supposed to present yourself and look and act, and things you're supposed to do, and kind of goals to accomplish. Like that's fun when you realize it's a game and you like the rewards, and you want like I like the rewards of um, a business, so I'm gonna play the business game. Um, but if you're not interested in the rewards, then go live in a houseboat in Sausalito, like Alan Watts.
Well, yeah, I think everybody gets to decide which games they want to play. That's
Yeah,
a
you get
fun.
to
Sounds
yeah.
like a fun game.
That's the freedom is that like that you pick the game you want to play. There's lots of games being played. Go pick the game you want to play. Don't get stuck into thinking that there's one you have to play the game that your parents taught you about. Do good in high school so you do good in college so you can get a desk job until you die. I opted out of that game when I was 15.
And
Caused a lot of problems
I
because
don't
everyone
advise that. Yeah.
um but go pick the game you want. Like there's tons of them. Go pick the Buddhist monk game. It's just a game. Uh, like we at the end of the day, like when the Buddhist monk is cremated and when the fucking office worker is cremated, who won? Did anyone win? Did either of them do I mean, are they taking more rewards with them when they die to wherever they're going? Some people would say yeah, but play the game you want. Play the game that brings you joy. That's the other, don't play a game you hate.
It's so tough because there's certain games that it feels like we have to play. That's what's can get frustrating. It's like I see no way out of my parents' basement, or I see no way out of taxes. You know, like there's certain games I have like played the game of no game, which is I'm not messing with taxes. I'm not gonna focus on my studies. So like, yeah, we're unconsciously or consciously playing these games.
But yeah, there's some games you can't not play. So it's then the game is recognizing that and accepting it. Like you can be miserable, or you got to kind of accept that there's taxes. Or you don't go be a fucking monk. There's plenty of monasteries with like open beds, I'm sure. Go leave, or accept that you are playing this game and you want to play the material game. Part of the material game is taxes, is job, is living in mom's basement right now.
So what you're pointing to is things that are not comfortable or not preferable. Okay, and that segues us into the topic I want to really talk about is the mechanics of surrender, because I think they go hand in hand.
That was my topic, by the way. I gave it to him yesterday.
Was that the ego or was that spirit? That's my question.
No, that's me messing around.
Okay, so let me catch up on the chat. What?
You just rolled in with that topic, like you just had this great thing up your sleeve.
If you were a true awakened master, you would see that this voice is just another appendage of you.
Yeah, no, I recognize your voice is just my voice, so I'm making sure it stays in line.
By making sure we all know it came from that that brain box. Hey. Good morning. Good. You want to say good morning to Reed? Here he comes. He's coming to say good morning. Here, go talk in the mic. You got to speak into the microphone.
Good morning.
Hey, Eli.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What are you doing?
We're having a talk show, bud.
Yeah, we're me and Adam are having some kind of discussion.
You want to hang out in here?
Golf.
You want to play golf? Okay, grab a seat. You can hang out in here.
Certificate.
Okay. Okay, let me catch up on this real quick. We can go into the mechanics of surrender. That was Eli, by the way. He says good morning. Catch up real quick. At Praxis, everything is real. Existence has countless layers, and they are all real. Right now, we are only conscious, operating in the physical and mental layers, and we are trapped in them. Now you're trying to understand the whole of existence through the lens of just two layers. That is not possible. One must at least be aware of the third layer, the witness, to begin to understand the mind and body.
I thought we were pretty clear that the witness was also a fabrication. I thought that was like figured out a long time ago.
And then we got I don't streak because I don't want to get arrested. Thinking of life as a game would be a mistake. It undermines the reality of consequences that impacts people outside of us.
No, it's not like if you're playing. No, you understand consequences. Like you don't play a game without knowing the rules and the people involved. That it's not. If you go to a chess tournament, you don't like flip the board when you lose. Just because it's a game doesn't mean you like act like an idiot at the table.
Yeah, like the games that we don't really choose, we don't have a choice to play, which is the game of, being a person in a world with people. But you could also go to a cave, so there's always a choice, but recognize, I think
you have to apply some measure of wisdom and recognizing that like playing nicely with other people also facilitates the experience you want to have. Um, like recognizing your role as a human being. Like you can't just think you're some solo actor, but you can look around in the world and see what happens when people genuinely think they're solo actors doing whatever the fuck they want. Um, we don't want to be those people. Like they're not good people, and you can see it. But I don't think, yeah, don't take the game metaphor to mean that nothing matters. We're pretending certain goals matter. The game isn't. Um, yeah, does that make? It's like if you're playing the game to like get everything you can out of it at the expense of others, like that's on you. Like go do that if you want. There's not a I don't know. There are judges. They'll lock you up if you cross the line. So like
It also
I don't know.
seems to be that reality has this way of wrapping itself around the decisions that you make. So you will, in a lot of ways, attract like the worst people that you could ever want to interact with, and like you could end up in jail or like terrible things because of this type of thinking or behavior.
But yeah, you're also creating the game to some extent by your choices.
Joe
You're,
says an interesting thought: ignorance of the law excuses no one. Ignorance of the law excuses no one, unless you're a tribe off of the
is a law
what?
because no one's ignorant that there is a law. So we all know there's a law, but just not knowing what it is an excuse. Like if you know there's a law, it's your responsibility to know what it might be. We know there are rules.
And Peter says the spectrum of sincerity. Each game is personal in its meaning for each individual.
There we go. And if someone's game really is like seeing how many people they can punch in the face during their lifetime, that's their game.
Seeing how many monies they can collect in their lifetime.
I think the point of their game is to make X dollars. That's fine.
Okay, let's talk about the mechanics of surrender. That's a tough bridge to this. Let me try to bridge us from what we're just talking about. So there's games that we don't choose. There's games that are happening, and then we become conscious of all this things going on. And so I guess the mechanics of surrender, you have to ask yourself, why would you want to surrender, and what would you be surrendering to? Let's talk about that.
Well, what do you think?
I mean,
why would someone to surrender? Well, first of all, they have to have heard of the concept of surrender.
Yeah,
right. So
Bird needs a context for surrender. Bird, the context for this is, I'll give my context, and then Reed, you give your context. My context for surrender is an interest in experiencing myself in deeper states of being in relationship with divinity. That's my context for surrender. Like I'm interested in transcending the limits of my own mind, body, and ego. That's what I'm interested in.
So I think surrender, in general terms, not just recovery, but like it's when someone's got ideas about who they are, how they want to be, how the world is, and then they're acting based on those ideas. If those ideas are sufficiently out of alignment with reality, you're going to come up against the world. Like Adam said, you're going to start bumping your head against the wall. You can keep doing that ad infinitum or you eventually capitulate, realize the world's not going to change. You've got to change. Something you're doing ain't right. And that's the surrender, is to a new way of doing things. That can be to varying degrees. For a lot of people, that's their way of doing things is so wrong, it's literally killing them. Like in the case of certain addictions. Um, and extreme cases, that surrender is surrendering everything about myself and my way of being to the direction of a power of the divine, or it could be to an organization like AA or a cult. But you're essentially surrendering self-will to something, and because you recognize have recognized that your way is not working.
Okay, that's a good context. I think I'm with you on that one. Um, it's something it's something that I would say one becomes interested in once they've realized that they can't create the thing that they thought they could for themselves.
Yeah, their way is not working, and there might be the realization that you've tried to change your way and are unable to. Again, maybe in the case of an addiction, compulsion, or just like, man, if you're just an asshole or an angry person, like you might not be able to just change that. It might start causing you a lot of pain. You might become aware that you're hurting people. You might not want to be that anyway, but you might come to the realization that, despite trying to be different for X number of years, you haven't been able to put a dent in it. That's where surrender to an outside agency,
So
say, look, my way hasn't worked. I'm going to follow someone else's direction or system or God.
here's a couple questions. Is samadhi surrender?
Who asked that?
Yoshi?
I knew it.
Yeah, right. He didn't know it, Yosh.
I did. Because I'm not familiar enough with these concepts within the context of maybe the Eastern traditions to really give. Um, I don't know. Like, I don't have a scholarly definition of samadhi in the first place to say. Um, so I don't have the experience there to answer that.
And this is Joe, at what age should you come to this realization? The realization that your own ego, your own will can't create the desire that you're seeking. Let me take this one. I don't think there is an age for it. I think it can just happen whenever somebody realizes they're done trying to force or force life to adapt to its own whims.
There's people who get sober when they're like 17 or 16 and I hope I don't get it. That's suspicious to me. Because I think there's an age minimum. I don't think at 16 you're I don't think you have, like, that's good if you get sober, but at the same time I don't think anyone has enough life experience at that point to like definitively say that they failed at something or not. Like,
I
um
disagree. I think people have different thresholds for tolerance for consequences. And for some people, 15, 14, 16, realizing that there's doors they can't walk through or things they can't do because of their choices and their decisions and their inability to stop themselves from behaving poorly, what they would perceive as poorly.
yeah, my question is, how do you realize your inability to stop yourself like within 6 months of trying? I
That's a
mean,
good
maybe I
question.
yeah, that's my question. It's like I have to try repeatedly for a long period of time to admit my inability to change something. I'm gonna experiment. I'm gonna try. Um, I think 6 months could be enough for someone. But hold on. Is there an age maximum at which you should have surrendered? Was that the question?
No, it was just a joke. Joe was just joking. He wanted to hear 35.
Well, yeah, 35 is, if you haven't figured out everything, you should watch our other video. It's explained in clear detail.
You should not watch that video.
I haven't edited it yet. It might be the lost episode.
Yeah.
Um,
There's
but
nothing there for you.
I think it's a really good one. It's probably our best one and we'll never release it. But um, some people never don't have to surrender. Like, I don't know how common it is for people to come up against life to a degree that they're forced to um, change. Or, I mean, most people don't need to join a cult, monastery, recovery group, or um, what have you. But
Most people aren't interested in real ultimate power. Like I just picture you in high school just scheming in your room, drinking your cough syrup, just like power, like techno music blaring, ultimate power. Like you're gonna read the Necronomicon and transcend the limits of your consciousness.
well, I was gonna say I was into the occult and I had lots of forbidden books and I tried to do just that.
I don't think most people behave that way. I think people are like, oh wow, I like ice cream on a Friday night. Let's get some ice cream and go to bed.
Well, I was also playing like, Morrowind and Oblivion, and Elder Scrolls and stuff. I was like playing video games, but like when I wasn't playing video games, I was like studying ancient esoteric texts. Um, like they were like all over the floor in my room, and my mom would try to, she'd occasionally try to like hide them or like remove them because my parents were like, surely this is the cause of our woes. And I'd be like, years later, I'd be like, where did that book go?
What did you say? Do you really listen? You guys, you need to know about the Hermetic principles. Don't you understand?
Do people need, or is that a question? No.
No, I was just imagining you trying to convince everybody that we're veiled. Okay, let me go to here. Anastrumic et praxis. Surrender, gratitude, mindfulness bring us back to the present moment. Anything that brings us back to the present moment is secondary. Total surrender here and now is the hallmark of a self-aware person. And then Bird asks, what's the balance between surrender and navigating with knowledge and wisdom?
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a great one.
Yeah. So that's the I feel like that is the question, and that is what I'm trying to answer for myself right now.
What Bird just described here is my answer to this his own question. He says, in turbulent times / waves, even the captain of the ship will need to balance between surrendering to the whim of the waves and steering the ship. And that's why I went on such a long tangent about Bruce Lee's philosophy last week, was because that, to me, that is the mystical experience, is recognizing that I'm trusting my own experience, I'm trusting my own training, and I'm allowing even the steering to steer itself in relationship to the waves. I'm trusting my intuition, I'm trusting everything. But as a captain, you would hope that a captain would have trained have had training and things like that. That's why the martial way, that's why Jeet Kune Do, that's why this type of talking and thinking and processing.
So what are you trusting? Oh, wait, I want to say, okay, so we're talking about mystical experiences or whatever. So I think this is mysticism, is the intersection of, having experience, wisdom, and all that, and how do you actually leave the mind, leave the realm of ideas, and follow something that's not the mind and not ideas.
It's
mysticism.
It's absolute trust in what is. So if
what do you mean by trust? Trust what? Trust that what?
You can't know it. That's why it's ultimate. That's why I didn't say it's just trust. It's ultimate. It's super special because I said ultimate trust.
No, but what are you trusting that it will do?
It will do. It will do itself. Like I don't kick. It kicks all on its own. That's Bruce.
Would you trust it if you thought what it was trying to do was put you in a meat grinder?
Wait, what?
Would you trust the ultimate because you believe it will be good for you?
I'm just talking about Bird's metaphor of a captain steering a ship amidst turbulent waves.
I know, but you started talking about trusting what is and all that. So I'm asking you, what are you trusting it to do?
To do what's needed to be done. To the best of its ability.
Are you trusting what is, knowing that it's possible that it's leading you to walk off a cliff?
You wouldn't. So the idea is this is why self-examination. This is why thinking through these things and testing and trying things and challenging ourselves. This is why all this stuff is because you would hope that through the course of knowing yourself, and when I say yourself, I mean the character, like your body, your mind, your temperament, what you're interested in, what your why is, how you want to navigate, what games you want to play, how you interested in moving. Once you actually look at yourself and start to examine the attributes or the traits that are of interest to you, and you decide or make a decision to want to like be competent in the world as a person moving through the world, then it's that relationship between trusting your own training and trusting the unknowable, unseen future that is arising in every moment and forming some sort of a relationship with that. So when you get to the boat, oh, go ahead. Wasn't I off base here?
Why are you trusting this unseen, unknowable? Why do you trust it?
There's no way, like, trust might be a poor word. There's no escaping it. It's just what is.
Right. Trust is a bad word in this situation because you're recognizing that it's impossible to get away from it, and therefore you must go with it.
Oh, right.
Because to say you're trusting it, the implication is you're trusting it not to kill you, but to make you better.
But this is why surrender is not very comfortable, because when you say just like relax, be patient, trust what's supposed to happen, everything in your body is screaming no, 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 no. Everything in your thoughts are saying no, no, no. I need to get an answer from him. I need an answer from her. I need to know what the next step is. I need to go to the gym. I can't just sit on the patio. I need to go work myself out. That's what I need. Surrendering is like completely uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yes, to relinquish control. But the surrender, so I'm curious, can surrender happen if you don't to some degree believe that the thing you're surrendering to will be good for you?
Wait. Say that again. I missed that.
I'm curious to find out would someone surrender um without the idea that what they're surrendering to will somehow be good for them.
Okay, so this was my problem with all my early. I would say I've been sober 13 years. I would say until I met Peter and I started going over to his house, practicing yoga and talking to him every week about how to develop a relationship with power. I didn't know how to do it, so I'd say 9 years. My frustration was I was hearing people share all the time, like I'm just going to let go and give it over to God, and I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. Like you're creating this imaginative, like what are you actually going to do? Like tell me what the mechanics of what you're doing on a daily basis to stop yourself or recognize that you're going to use again. Like, because to me, powerlessness for me was experiential. I knew that when I sat in that meeting, day 6 sober, if I don't do anything, I'm going to get high. I knew it. It was to my bones. I'd never done all the 12 steps. I looked at him at the wall and I said, well, I've got 2 options here. I could either do what everyone else is saying they're doing and have the experience they're talking about, or I'm just going to use again. So for me, it was very clear that there's actual mechanics and things I can do on a daily basis, a ton of things that I could do. And I did all of them all the time because I was so aware that if I didn't, I would be high. So to me, I didn't understand what the hell you were trusting when people talked about turning your will and your life over to this power, because you can literally do things. You can wake up in the morning, you can pray, you can call your sponsor, you can go to a meeting, you can share, you can all this stuff that you can actually do. It's nothing you have to wait around for.
Yes. When I surrendered in AA and actually got sober, the surrender was immediately followed by action. It was a surrender. I was surrendering whatever it was in me that was stopping me from taking action. It was immediately followed by new behaviors and new action. And I think that's the effective surrender leads to a behavior change. Um, I don't think a real surrender is passive. That's just acceptance. Um, Does that do you think a real surrender precipitates a behavior and action change, follow-up actions?
Yes and no, because it's changed now. Everything I just shared is not my current experience.
Yeah. At first, that's what it was.
Yeah, at first. But I also had my entire wiring was all sorts of screwed up. The image that comes to mind is like tempering, making a blackened alloy sword in EverQuest, a two-handed blackened alloy sword. Okay, you're tempering it. You're not going to just let it soak in the flames. I don't know anything about blacksmithing. Everybody, I'm making this up as I go. Just in case you're wondering, I just imagine that you got to bang some shit out because the metals are all oblong and messed up, and then you can let it relax and cool off.
Yeah. So I think when people say I'm just gonna let go and let God, it's a helpful attitude because it can take your mind off things you can't control and would otherwise worry about, and allow you to focus on actions you can actually take. So the let go and let God allows you to let go of the outcome and focus on taking the actions. I think that's the value in that.
That's a good.
Um,
That's a good value.
yeah. So that's what this, I don't know, effective living in general, whatever. Eyes off the prize, eyes on the present actions. And that's why just for today is also a valuable slogan for anyone. Like the actions I can take are just for today. I'm not I can't build a business from what I did yesterday or what I think I'll do tomorrow. It's the actions I take today or whatever it is, or getting sober, like whatever the project is. Um, but I'll start planning stuff, the actions I'm going to take tomorrow and the next month and the next year, and reviewing my plans and actions from the previous day, month, year. And then eventually I'll realize like it it's been like weeks and all I've done is think about actions that haven't actually taken actions. But it like feels like I'm doing something because I'm thinking and planning. And it's um and then I realize I haven't actually done anything. Like it's been 2 weeks and I haven't done anything. I've just been formulating a scheme. But there's some planning necessary. But I think for me that's why let go and let God or whatever is I guess it's helpful.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying earlier about the imagination, and you can actually have all these experiences that you're thinking about without ever doing a damn thing, and you'll get all the results too. You'll get the high emotionally, you'll get the sense of camaraderie, the rush of it all, and nothing will have
Yeah,
happened.
I think for me there's danger in thinking about something too much because once I've like thought through it's like or like what I'm going to say or like a topic I'm thinking about or what I'm planning to do or what I want in the future, if I've thought about it thoroughly, it's like I've already gone through the process. And it's like it burns itself out before I do anything. Um,
There's
so
also
it's better. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, there's also another side to this. Is at the what I would perceive as for myself. I want to preface this as the deepest levels of awareness and being. Even those actions themselves are a form of dream, and even the dream in which I'm experiencing on a moment by moment basis. But and this is what I know we've touched on this, but like there is reality, there is realness, there is something to the actual experience of living and being and moving and creating a life in this world. So, like most things I see as they are and they aren't at the exact same time. And to me, it makes it easier to, I mean, like, why would anybody go through uncomfortable experiences if it didn't actually create an idealized future or idealized experience for oneself? And the idea that we can know that if I'm uncomfortable now, it's better for tomorrow is miraculous.
I mean, I feel like that's wisdom and experience and introspection is like, that's why, yeah, you should be able to suss these things out. That's why it's so damaging for a kid to be shielded from uncomfortable experiences, or anyone. Like, that's why growing up with wealth can be um, detrimental, is because you've got money to solve all the problems. You don't have to make hard choices. You don't have to have uncomfortable experiences. And then if you can continue to have that wealth or that shield, whatever it might be, the rest of your life, I think some people are never forced to face these kind of things, but someone like me, so then I'm in my like late 20s and I have zero life strategies, zero coping skills, zero ability to face uncomfortable things, zero like making a phone call is such a nerve-wracking experience that I was only able to like start calling people on a daily basis because I literally thought I was gonna die if I didn't. Um, so it's like I'm from the ground up for the last 10 years, I've been learning how to live and learning probably basic lessons that most people pick up when they're in their teens or 20s. Um, and I'm still recovering from the effects of being able to avoid discomfort as a child. Although I never really did because I was always anxious and depressed and afraid anyway. But uncomfortable experiences, I could avoid those. I hated sports when I was a kid. My parents tried to put me on all the sports teams, and I would just sit there. I didn't know how to play the game. All the other kids knew. The coaches never really taught us the game. We just played. There's this assumption that you already knew how to play the sport. I didn't. I just stand there, afraid of the people, not wanting to be there. Hope the ball didn't come to me, and then it was basically traumatic. And then I got put on a new sports team every year and hated it because that was gonna fix me. Just Reed needs to go play some sports or whatever. No, Reed needs some kind of fucking therapy and medication.
Yeah, there's the other side of this is when it becomes need to and stuff. But yeah, this is let me catch up just a little bit here on what the comments we got. Well, there's a lot. We were kind of got in the weeds. Crown. Peter says, for me, surrender is a byproduct of recognizing the truth. So Peter says when you realize the truth for yourself, surrender naturally occurs. And then Anastrumic at Praxis, the ego needs trust to surrender. Surrender through being is without any concept of self. Then you are just here and now, fully alive. Surrender through being is without any concept of self. Then you are just here and now, fully alive. By the way, Anastrumic at Praxis, if you want to come on next Saturday, there's a Discord link you're on YouTube. I think you can leave a comment somewhere and I'll see it and I'll send you the link to the Discord. And then we got Bird. I think Bird was able to. Bird's on Twitch, and he said !Discord. And I think that only shows for Twitch people. Moonside. Bird wants to trade his arthritis for Joe's wealth. But yeah, I think this has been great so far. We didn't get to my other topics. I guess I'll save them for later. Well, I have just a quick one. We kind of touched on it, so we don't ever have to talk about it again. We've got a few minutes left. I want to ask you this, Reed, just because I'm curious. 12 steps, addiction, allergy to substances. Is this real for you? Are you allergic to substances like alcoholism, like an allergy to alcohol and mood-altering substances? Are you allergic?
I think the allergy, that's some shit they wrote in the 30s. Like, I guess it makes sense in a certain context, but I don't know if the allergy definition works.
Works for me. I'm allergic.
I can use mouthwash. If I was allergic to alcohol, I wouldn't be able to put mouthwash with alcohol in my mouth.
You're not drinking it though. You're not putting it into. You're swishing it around and spitting it out.
That's not how an allergy works.
The allergy is when we ingest a substance, we break out in craving and needing and wanting more.
Yeah, but like a peanut allergy, you can rub the peanut on the skin and get the reaction.
You can rub cocaine on your lips, and I bet you that would engage the allergy.
Because it ingests the substance.
Yeah, you're talking about swishing mouthwash. Well,
That doesn't trigger a craving.
it does. Yeah,
No,
that's interesting.
I don't think it's the substance. I think it's the feeling the substance produces triggers the allergy. We're allergic to the because I don't know, because I think it's different for everyone. I don't think there's one mechanic for how addiction works. Because me, I'll have like addictive thoughts with like chamomile tea because it makes me slightly relaxed. I'll start looking forward to it. I'll start thinking about it, like very mildly, but I notice it's there because anything that gives me any kind of relief, from, I don't know, I just kind of have a baseline level of anxiety, which is just, I think, physiological. Um, but so it's not the substance for me, it's the feeling of being a little bit more relaxed. But that's not the case for everyone. Some people, they only experience that in relation to alcohol.
That was really good. I can relate to that. I can relate to what you just described. To me, it's very psychological. Less body, more psychological. Psychological is part of the body, but like it's really about the stories and the way in which my own temperaments and everything like that. Let's see. Peter said, what did Peter say? He said something interesting, but it disappeared. Oh, no doubt my response to alcohol was abnormal in relationship to temperate drinkers. So he's saying his relationship to alcohol was abnormal in relationship to other people that can just drink okay. And then, let's see, Anastrumic at Praxis, by the way, surrender with devotion through love is the best form of surrender. And then Bird says, chamomile tea never did anything for me. Bird, I bet you Bird really likes the Four Locos.
Well, that's Indonesia, right?
I don't know.
They got kratom over there.
But yeah, this has been great. Yeah, thanks y'all for hanging out. This was very lively and very fun. Did you have a good time, Reed?
Yeah, is Yoshi still here? Did I offend him by accident? Offend them?
I don't know. I don't know if he's here or not. If he is here, let me just give him a bring hop.
Yeah, I hope I didn't.
The sound effects from Yoshi's Story are some of the best sound effects ever made. Also, the sound effects of walking in the original Resident Evil, you know, while you're just walking through the mansion, you can hear the footsteps. Ooh, those are great sound effects. But yeah, great show. Peter, have a great day. I hope you get some good swings in today. By the way, Peter's, if you want to see some great golf footage, go to Peter's Instagram. I don't know what his Instagram, I couldn't tell you what his, I'll look at it right now. It's just his name, Peter Kronquist. He doesn't. There's not a. Is there an @ there? Anyway, go look up Peter. Learn how to golf if you're interested in golf. And we'll have Peter on too eventually. And Anastrumic, yeah, just hit me up on YouTube. Find the Discord channel, join the Discord, or put a comment on any video. I'll see it and I'll send you the link. And I hope everyone has the most excellent afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.